Hi everyone, this is Christina within the garden, and I just got home. I'm super excited. We get to start our onions. It's January, and to get a head start on our seeds starting, we're going to start our onions, or anything allium related really can be planted in January. This includes maybe the bulbs that you purchased and hadn't planted in the fall of last year. Because it's cold in zone 7, you can plant those in January and February and you'll be fine. Just store them in a cold place in the meantime like I did. Now we're gonna go get changed, and then I'm going to get out to the greenhouse and we're going to sift our soil so that it is nice and without large chunks of any kind of wood or bark. And then we're going to get our onion seeded right into those trays today. And we will see these crops mature in anywhere between 100 to 120 days. And we'll go over the seed variety, but I just wanted to get excited about this, get started, and get out in the greenhouse. So follow me.
Okay, all changed, and we got the seeds that we were thinking about. Now, I wanted to share with you that I started a garden planner. The one I'm using is a subscription through Epic Gardening, and I think it's somewhere around $35. If it's not 35 exactly, it might be 34 for the subscription for the year. And I have been looking for a garden planner that'll help me plan out my entire beds. I basically wanted something that had bed design, and then you would do plant placement, and then it would tell you when to start those seeds, when those plants would harvest, and all of that. Well, they created one, and I guess it was created a while ago, and some of the gardeners on YouTube are now promoting it. So Charles Dowding, a couple other gardeners in England, Epic Gardening here in the US, they all have their version of it. It's the same program and same software system, but you might pay to host it through a different platform. And so what I did was I ordered my seeds from Johnny Seeds and from Epic Gardening, which Epic Gardening's seed company is called Botanical Interest. And so you'll notice their seed packages come with pictures and labeling, and even inside of the packaging comes with further information about that seed. Now, what's cool about the planner is that I knew that I had to grow onions early in the year, but I can see on a calendar in the planner, after I've placed all of my plants in my beds in this hypothetical planner, I can see which seeds I had to start in January. And it's nice because you can categorize them in the month you're in. So January means growing onions. And so what I did as my orders came in from Johnny Seeds and from Botanical Interest, and the seeds I already had, is I started inputting them into the bed placement, and then it would sort it for me. And so the onions that I want to grow this year are going to be the yellow sweet Spanish Utah onion. And we grew a sweet onion last year, was a candy. So this is my version of that this year. I'm going to do the Texas Early Grano. I think that's how you say that. The Walla Walla, because I just really love Walla Walla onions. When we lived in Georgia, Vidalia onions are about the same consistency as far as taste and texture as the Walla Walla, and I really liked those. We're going to do a red onion again. Flat of Italy is this red onion from Botanical Interest. I'm going to also have a bunching onion, which is more or less a scallion or a young onion, and this is what they look like, little red ones as well. And those are going to be nice for in the spring. I'll have to label those because I'll label everything, but as they go out, you do not want to confuse these two red onions. You don't want to pull the bigger onion and think you're pulling the younger, more immature onion variety that you're supposed to. And then I'm going to grow shallots, and I didn't have any luck growing shallots last year. Actually, let me take that back. Last year we grew shallots from bulb sets, and that went really well. You might have watched our video on onion harvesting last year, and we did sets, which are those small bulbs that are already grown and then wintered over, and then you put the set in the ground. We did that with shallots. That went really well. Now, when I've done shallots in the past by seed, I didn't have a lot of success, so we'll see how it goes. Now, I did get a gift for Christmas, and I'm going to try it out because you can grow your onions in cluster packs. Now, I've seen some gardeners go about the route of planting one seed per soil pack or per cell. Let me show you. So if this was a cell, you could plant 1 seed per cell. Now we're not using these, but these are Epic Gardening's seed cells, and these are the smaller ones. What we're gonna use is a bigger cell, and we are going to plant a lot in a small space. Now, the reason we're doing that is because the great thing about onions, and you might remember from the video we did last year, is that you buy them clustered together and you just pull them apart. Onions are incredibly resilient. They like cold weather. They're one of the easiest crops to grow right next to garlic. So if you want to try crops that are easy when you're a beginning gardener, onions would be one of them. And basically what we're going to do is grab one of these pods. We're gonna grab some bigger ones. They'll stay in the tray, but we're gonna sprinkle multi-seeds or multiple seeds throughout, and then we're just gonna leave them in these trays. Now, what I like about these Jiffy pods is that, number one, they have the moisture tops, which a lot of seed trays really do have that. I like it because I got it as a gift and I want to use them. I also like that it kind of holds them together. And so when we get to the point where we're going to set these into in-ground beds, which onions are perfect for in-ground beds, they do not like hard soil. And so raised beds are the perfect way to go on onions and garlic. When you have something that's a root crop and it's expanding, it needs fluffy soil that is not compacted. And so raised beds typically afford you that. And so what we're gonna do is use those, but I also want to test the idea of just using a tray. So let me show you what the tray would look like. 1 second. Okay, I had purchased some flowers in this flat, and the nursery I bought them from in Richland was really nice because when you're carrying out this many plants, it's nice that they just give you the tray that it goes in. So I'm not gonna do all of these in onions, but I'm gonna start 3. And what we'll be doing is we'll be sifting some of the soil, the loose soil here in our soil tray, into these 3. So let me take these out. Actually, let's go for 2 because I got 2 random separate ones there. And then we're gonna try that against the idea of using the pods. Now, there shouldn't be any difference. Peat moss is the main ingredient in both of these. I don't love peat moss, but it does stay hydrated and is great for seedlings. If you're looking for something different, you could use a Spoma seed starting set. I am using Miracle Grow today, and some of their ingredients include peat moss, and that's fine with me for now. When I get to the point that the compost is producing a very rich and dense, like soil-like material, I think that planting my seedlings directly into compost would be the way to go. So let's get started. I'm gonna grab some of these Jiffy pods over here behind me. Now, we pre-moistened these a couple weeks ago, and believe it or not, they've stayed incredibly wet. And so I'm really excited about the fact that I haven't watered these in almost 2 weeks, and the humidity domes have kept them completely moist. And that's really what you need with seedlings, is you need to not only do the work of planting the seeds, but you have to keep them moist. Now, because these are already completely wet, we won't moisten them today, but if your pods were not wet, you would want to water them in. Now, the ones that we're going to put in here, we'll put the soil in, we'll water them in, then we'll put the seed in, and then I'm gonna put vermiculite on top to hold the moisture because we do not have humidity trays for these ones. Now, you could set a tray right on top, that's up to you. However, I'm not gonna do that because I'd just like to see how they both turn out. So I'm gonna bring this over, we're gonna grab our seeds, we're gonna do some labeling, and we'll get on a roll with these new onions that I'm so excited to start this year. All right, we're gonna sift our soil through here, and it'll catch all of the extra little sticks that get put into seed starting mix soil. And so what I'll show you here in a sec, all right. So if you can see this with me, a lot of these seeds or other things get left in soil mix. These are fine for bigger plants, so I'm just gonna stick this back over here, but we're gonna use this for our seeds because it's gonna allow the seed to make contact with the soil. Now let me get some water and we'll get these into our seed trays that we picked out, which are right here. Okay, I have a basin here to catch, And we're going to put a little more of the soil in here. And the reason we sift it through, and I'm gonna hold it kind of down so it doesn't puff up in my face. The reason we sift this, or you can sift it, is that this will hold all of the larger particle sticks and bark and things like that up above the catch basin here. And what it did was it caught all those large pieces of bark that get put into seed starting mix. It's okay for you to have this for your larger plants when you're potting up, but there's no need to have that in the actual seeds. I'm sorry, not in the seeds, but in the initial baby pots when you first start on these plants. Now what you can see is that we've got a little bit, it's really fine. And what that does when you don't have big pieces of wood and bark in your soil is that it allows the seed to make contact and germinate better when you have fine material that you're using in the soil. And so you might have chunky compost and you would sift through it in an effort to get some of this fine enriched soil that you're going to want to have for your seedlings. So let me get some moisture and then we'll put that right into the pot. Something you can do when you're creating your labels is not only put the name on the front, but on the back you can put the date you started the seed and how long the seed is to harvest. So for example, this is 110-day maturity, and today, yep, today's the 11th of January. So if you're just thinking about what that looks like. So 110 days is going to put us somewhere around, let's see, March, April, May, beginning of June for harvesting on these, which is pretty good. And you can succession sow onions to where you have a second planting in the spring so that you have fall onions, which is a good idea to stagnate any crop really, because then that way you're not bombarded by a great harvest and having to store everything. Good idea for things like carrots. I love growing carrots, and you can succession sow carrots every 2 weeks. So something to think about. So on the back of these, I'm gonna put today, January 11th, and I'm gonna put 110 days for this particular onion. And this one is, this one is 110 to 130 days of maturity. So technically you could allow this one to go longer, harvesting these Spanish ones at a different time. In the last video I did, I harvested all my onions at the same time. So I'll probably try to remind myself, or you could remind me as well, that there is no need to harvest these particular onions too early. And so if I want to wait so that I have a second crop or an additional crop coming in after the other, that way I'm not, again, having 50 onions and nowhere to put them, store them, eat them, all of those things. Before we get all dirty mixing the soil and the water, let's write out our labels really quick. So as a reminder, we have 6 onion varieties that I'm going to start today. Now I have my toolbox of seeds that I'm going to look through before we end the video today and see if there was any other onions. We really like onions and they stored okay, but what I'm going to do differently this year is, and the Jiffy pods came with these little labels, so I'm going to use them. What I'm going to do differently this year is that I stored all of my onions on a rack that I got from Gardener Supply. Love the rack. It was a bad idea to store them in the kitchen, because the kitchen is the temperature that we heat the house. And so when you're storing produce, and I know this, but I don't know why I did this, was I like the rack so much I think I wanted to see it. And my onions matured really fast in the kitchen. And so we had to cook them, eat them, or store them right away because they were going bad. Let me get these labels done real quick and we'll move on. I have them all labeled. Some of them are as short as This one is 60 days. So these bunching onions are just 60 days. Now that's okay. We've had a really mild winter, and even the bulbs are starting to raise their heads because there's not been any snow. And onions in particular, you might say, okay, well that's true, but we don't get winter until January anyway, or February, and so there could be a cold snap. Well, that's gonna be perfectly fine because onions do really well. You can always cover them with a harvest cloth that allows to keep the moisture in. You could put hay around, or straw, I keep saying hay, straw around onion heads as they come up in their little heads, but we're not even putting these outside right away. So the 60-day option, that would be in March sometime that they would fully mature. So what I could do is I could put them in a bigger basin here in the greenhouse, but I'm gonna put them out there because it's been really nice. In fact, today it's really sunny. So let's get our onions in these pods and get our first seeds of the season off and running. This is the Jiffy Pot's smaller pods. As you can see, all the moisture is kept in the moisture tent. And these pods, I want to say this was 72. These are so moist, and I only moistened them one time, and it was a deep watering. We're not going to put them in these smaller ones. I'm going to trade out trays, but I wanted you to see that. We're going to put them in a larger one since we're multi-sowing. We want to give them as much space as possible. So let's move this one out of here. And let's move one of these big ones up for our onions. And I'll show you a trick that I'm gonna do with these. So let's put the moisture tray right there. And what I like to do is when I do get that happening, and I just kind of go like that. Okay, so these are the larger pods, and by a huge size difference, you can see how much larger they are. So I typically, when I'm using these Jiffy peat pods, is I try to kind of lift this up a little, so when I'm putting the seeds in there, I can kind of get them all the way around the corners right there, if you can see that. All right, so in this one, I think there was 36. Like I said, I love these because I got them as a gift, so I want to really spend some time using things that I receive as gifts. I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and use this tray for all of them. So we'll go Walla Walla will be our first 4. And I don't believe that I'll fill up the whole tray. And I like to group things together, so I'll just put it in the middle for now. So yellow, and then I pretty much have yellow and then red. And then shallots. Okay, so these are all yellows, red, and then shallots. And then for fun, because I want to throw these in real quick, is I'm going to grab these 2. I needed some lemon balm for tea, and I want rosemary. Now, I had rosemary in my garden really early on, and I put it in the wrong place. And what I mean by that is that rosemary gets really big. It's kind of like a weed. And so if you're gonna grow rosemary, I would put it in a place that it has a lot more room than I had given it. Okay, I'm just gonna cut the tops off. Let's do this. Okay, more light. Do you guys remember I bought this on Amazon, this little light growing station? Now this is what onion seeds look like. And the seeds that look like this also are those garlic chives. So I saved some seed from the garlic chives, and I can't wait to use them. Okay, so I'm gonna put about this many seeds per pod. So we'll go back over here, grab our little pod. I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna move the soil around a little bit with my finger, and then I'm just gonna put it in there. And like I said, these, these are gonna grow and bunch together, and it's gonna seem like this is a ridiculous way of planting. It's almost like, I feel like chaos gardening is very much like this. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of vermiculite. I got this big bag of vermiculite online. You can get this on Amazon. You're gonna get the fine, set this down here. You're gonna get the fine vermiculite. If you get the chunky one, I feel like it just is not the right consistency to keep the moisture in a way that you'd like it to be. So let's go ahead and just pour a little bit on top. Okay. And I'm gonna set that one there. Now I'm gonna do 3 more of these for that particular variety. So these ones are the Walla Walla. We'll just do this a couple times together and then we'll speed through it so you don't have to sit there for all of these 36. So again, if you're using Jiffy Pods, pull the little guys up, scoot those out. And Jiffy Pods are great to use in your house. So you could put this, like if you're my friend Kendall or you're my friend Rose and you're wanting to get started on gardening, I mean, you have a lot of time to get the onions in. Truth be told, this is early in a way. So don't feel like if you're watching this video, you can't order them now and then do this when they come in. But you could just put these in your laundry room or somewhere warm. And we're gonna put the vermiculite on top. This vermiculite I got on Amazon, so you can really get a lot of stuff online. You do not have to buy from a gardening shop. All right, and then you could just let these grow up in your laundry room or windowsill or kitchen counter if you're into having stuff on your counter. And then what you would do is when it warms up outside in March, actually probably beginning of March, you would let's say mid or beginning of March, you would then pull these apart like we did in our video last year, and then you'd plant them individually in your raised beds. If you have loose soil that is not compacted, or like mine that is more like, ours is not a clay, but when it gets wet, it's very dense. And so that can create a lot of compacting. All right, last one. So here's what I imagine we're gonna have. Probably, how many seeds are in each? Well, it just says 500 milligrams. I wanna say 100. There's probably 100. And I'm gonna save some of these Walla Wallas because I love them for the other application we decided to do. Okay, little baby vermiculites, done with Walla Walla. Then we'll move on to the other varieties that we chose to do. I'm gonna go ahead and plant these while I'm out here because I want these like I had mentioned before. So we're just gonna do 1 pot of each. So we'll put this in there and that one in there. Let me open these up and we'll get these started. Now, a note on the rosemary, it does say 30 to 15 days to emerge, and I'm reading that on the back here. I'm assuming that that means that the germination time is long. It does say when starting inside, start 10 to 12 weeks before the average frost date. So the soil outside for this particular plant for rosemary, which rosemary really winters over because it's outside, it's a perennial plant, and it's just like your lavender where it's gonna go dormant. So we don't need more than 2 seeds in this little guy right here. So we're not multi-sowing like we just did the onions. These are just 2 little seeds. Let's do 3 to be sure of germination. And that is it. Then I'm gonna push the soil back over, and I won't need vermiculite on these because I went a little deeper on that. Okay, and they come in these tiny packs, so you want to fold them back over, put them back in your little guy. Now, if you're wondering, the information on the inside is typically historic information. So if you're a fan of information about seeds, seeing the seed, my favorite part is all the artistry that they do with the artwork on the front. You can really tell what you're growing instead of just reading a label. Reading a label is fine, but if you're a new gardener, you might need a little more information. And so I always like the way they do things at Botanical Interest. Okay, so this one's gonna be the lemon balm. Teeny, 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 tiny seeds. See how tiny those are? So we're just only gonna put like, that's 4. It's probably too many, but let's go for it because they're so tiny. So I feel like they're barely falling off my fingers. Okay. There's the lemon balm. So I hope you're excited about the new growing season. I'm gonna go ahead and grab, I'm not gonna grow any more of the red ones or the shallots in the larger pots that we set aside. These ones right here. I'm gonna grow the yellow ones. So now, since I only have 2, I need to decide, do I want more Walla Walla or the sweet Utah? So there are 3 types of onions that you need to be aware of. You're gonna have long day, short day, and intermediate. And so the packaging will tell you long day if you're not familiar with that. Long day is when an onion needs a lot of sun throughout the day to really bulb on, or for the bulb to get bigger. And so what you're looking for in that is, both of these are long day. I think I'll go with the long day onions. I wonder, I'll have to do some research on storing. I think the short day onions, and I might have this backwards, but I think they store for less period of time once you harvest them. So let's grab these, put our long day onions in them. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we've already lost the sunlight outside, which is incredible. All right. So here's our bucket that I showed you earlier. We're gonna water the soil in, mostly because you're trying to moisten the soil. When you have really, really dry soil, the seed can get dislodged and move around, and it's really hard to get the soil to stick where you want it, or sorry, the seed to get stuck where you want it to be. So let's take a look at this from over here, see if you can see it better. Here's the bucket. We sprinkled water on it. We're gonna mix the dirt around, and this is why I saved it to the end. So dirty. I got these little plastic containers, I think it was Gardener Supply, but I like them because they're not big bowls, or not deep, so like the ones you would get like at Walmart, and so I like the actual depth of these. Okay, so soil needs to be not dripping wet, which this one is a little bit more. Let me get some of the drier soil mixed up in there. But it wants to be wet and will hold. To gauge whether you've got enough moisture in your soil, you would squeeze it, and if it holds in place, you typically can assure yourself that that has enough water in it. I'm gonna take some off the top. Now, I don't know about you, but you don't have to fill to the brim each and every single container you run across. I don't think these onions need more space than what's already available from here to here, and I'd like to not top it off so that I can water and it kind of go down into it, instead of having it topped up to the top and the water run over. So that was just something I was planning to do with these. So we're going to press that down, and in one we're going to do the Walla Wallas, and the other one we are going to go with the yellow sweet Spanish Utah. All right, there we go. Both of those. So we'll put these on a tray that'll actually catch the water. Let me rinse my hands. The really cool thing about these Jiffy kits is that not only did it come with basically everything you need, it has the tray to catch the water, it has the soil pucks that you're going to puck, like ice puck, you're going to put water on so that they grow in height but also absorb the water, so it's less like a compacted piece of soil, and the water kind of gets it to go back to the regular form it was before they dehydrated it. But they also come with these, let me show you. these Thrive vitamin packs. So I added a pack of this to a can of water, and at the very end I'm going to go ahead and water these in, and I won't need to water these for another week. So the Jiffy system, I mean, you might not like it. It might be a little old school because they've been around for quite a long time, and you've gone past this and you're doing soil blocking and you have other seed tray systems. I do too, but I got these as a gift and I think they're pretty incredible, and I went ahead and added the vermiculite on top. You don't necessarily have to do that, so don't feel like you need to if you don't want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant the seeds in here, and then we'll be done. And then from here you can start putting these out into your actual raised beds in your outdoor area that you have created for your garden, somewhere beginning to mid to end March, and these will start growing in a way that is just incredible. So you're going to plant these, and within 30 to 45 days you're going to get them outside. It's okay if it's still cold outside. You want them to have enough time to get acclimated to the outdoors and start getting that sun. Now we're going to put these under grow lights in the meantime, so they'll have some artificial sun, and so they'll continue to grow. But 30 to 45 days from now we'll be putting these outside in the ground. Now for us in Zone 7 that still works. Like I said, there's a lot of cold crops that you could be planting right now. If you'd like some suggestions, lettuce is a good one. Any brassicas are a good one. You start them inside and you move them out. Onions, flowers that take a long time to germinate, like Lysianthus. Herbs are a good one to put out. Cabbage, anything that really is tolerant of cooler weather, because you're going to get past your frost date in the next 90 to 120 days, and some of these seeds can be started. So let me get these last few seeds in and we will wrap up. This is the Walla Walla. Just gonna empty the last bit. Oop. Some stuck on the bottom. Now in this larger container, larger than the pods we just did, there's probably, if I had to guess, and I'm going to save these for my reference. If I had to guess, I would say there's at least 20 to 30. And then what I'm going to do from here is grab a little soil from the top here and put it over here for a little bit of a layer, and then I am going to do the vermiculite over here. Now to top the top, I'll grab some from the bucket. Okay, so that was the Walla Walla. And this one is the Sweet Spanish. Now you might see there's quite a few in there. I'm not going to use as many as are in the, because this one came with so many that I'm going to save them. Okay, let me grab some soil. Okay, and last, grab our bag of vermiculite. These ones I'll water and won't be under a dome. And if you're wondering, I've got all this vermiculite on my hands. The best place to go with all of that is, let me show you. You get to that point, just add it right back to your soil. This soil I'll go ahead and leave set aside because I've already sifted it, but that is our soil right there where I keep all of our Miracle Grow. Now the Miracle Grow comes in this bag right here, and let's look at the ingredients real quick. Okay, this product is formulated from, I don't know how to say this, Sangam peat moss, perlite, fertilizer, and a wetting agent. Okay, so when it lists the first ingredient in most things is the thing they have the most of, so there's a lot of peat moss, which means that it didn't come with a lot of already ingrained nutrient dense soil. Peat moss doesn't really have any nutrients that I'm aware of, whereas soil with microorganisms do. And so you're going to want to fertilize those. So let's put a tray under here. These were the only onions we didn't do extra of in addition to the red. This was the package we put in there of the fertilizer. It's okay to fertilize seedlings. And these ones you can technically water from the bottom, and the water will pull up through the bottom of the pod and into the top. That way it doesn't dislodge the seed from the top, float the seed out, and end up in your seed tray. So I'm just gonna go around as much as possible. See how that bubbled up? Okay, and I absolutely dropped some onions, so there might be some stuff growing on the sides. Anyway, I'm gonna set this here for us to water at a later time. Take the humidity dome, put it back on. Now, this was just me getting really excited about planting something. We still have some plants we've overwintered in the greenhouse, and we still have lots to go. My plan is to basically start seeds every week or 2 weeks, depending on what the crop is. I'll look at my planner, and what I did and what you might like to do, as you get your seeds in, you just pick somewhere in the garden planner to put it, and then it goes right into the list of the things that you'll be planting for the year. Now, I think 35 bucks is pretty inexpensive for a garden planner. So for me, it was affordable. Also, I really like all the thought process that went into it. I like to plan, I like to see what I need to do, I like to have an idea. So in the past, a lot of my gardening has been, I would call it chaos in a way. There is a real thing called chaos gardening, but for me it's been chaotic because I fit it in where I can after work, and that works for me, and that's still going to be that still will have to be my way of doing it. However, at least this way I can see month by month that I only need to plant certain things. And then of course, as they grow in the greenhouse, they'll go out. But really, ultimately, you can plan out your whole year, your succession sowing, everything with this planner. The other thing I like about it is it gives you suggestions for companion planting. Companion planting is where two plants do incredibly well together. Sometimes a companion plant will drive away pests that eat that plant, or sometimes they'll be together because they thrive together. So if you want to know more about companion planting, this garden planner does all of that for you. Now, I am not being sponsored by the garden planner. I just really love that they rolled this out, and it's on a lot of gardeners' pages. So if you follow any other gardeners, like I said, Charles Dowding, Epic Gardening, there's another English gentleman I follow in England, and they all have it. You can subscribe to it. You pay for it once annually, and then you can plan out your whole year. That's how I knew that all the seeds I got in the mail could be put into the system, and then it told me when to start those seeds. So anyway, for somebody who loves to stay organized as much as I can, really, that was a godsend for me. So this is Seed Starting 2025. I hope you're excited, and I hope you stay tuned to the channel so that you can just see what we're doing. Now, again, I'm not a professional gardener, but I do love it. This is what I do to feel at peace, and my husband and I do a lot of it together, and you might have seen my baby in a lot of the other videos. He is incredible, and I think that these Jiffy systems are great systems if you're wanting to grow a garden with your kids. So this is Christina within the garden. I hope you had fun during this video, and we will see you in the next one.